Individually, Keith Burns and Michelle Poe had very good careers as songwriters and performers, but when they combined their talents, they struck country gold. Burns and Poe performed and shared the stories behind the songs they were singing at the Lovett Live Songwriters Series.
Keith, talk a little bit about how this performance tonight came about.
Well, we work with the Basil Group, and Patty Donahoe called me up and said, "I've got this, interesting thing going on. It's a songwriter series up at Murray State University in Kentucky, in Murray, Kentucky. And how would you like to put together, some songwriters and go up there and do it for the students up there?" And I, yeah, let's go. How far is it? And she said, "That's a couple hours up there." And any chance I get to work with other songwriters and do stuff like this, it's always a lot of fun, because it's not what I do on a daily basis with concerts. I mean, we have a band and we go out and we play, and it's structured, and but.
Now, Keith, you weren't necessarily born into music, correct? So how did you get to where you are today?
My uncles were the McKinney brothers, and they played bluegrass music, and they on the Louisiana hayride, and my dad sang rock and roll. And from a very early age, I used to sit in front of the mirror with a tennis racket and sing Elvis Presley. So I mean, I always loved music. I was athletics were more my thing up until high school, and then I broke my leg playing football, and I bought a guitar while my leg was broke and I had a cast on it. I bought a guitar and sat down and learned 3 chords, and about that time Waylon Jennings came along, and I said, I want to do that right there, and just kind of changed my whole direction in life.
Talk about when you went. What made you want to go to Nashville?
Well, just because that's where you got to be if you're going to be a country music star, and that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Elvis Presley, Neil Diamond, Waylon Jennings. I wanted to be a star, and if you're going to be a star in the country music genre, you have to go to Nashville, Tennessee to do it, and that's what I did.
Now, Michelle, I know you joined the Poe family band, so talk a little bit about that.
Well,
she had to. She was a Poe.
Yeah, yeah. My mom got remarried to my stepdad, who was an established musician in Nashville, and played for people like Donna Fargo and Janie Fricke and Barbara Mandrell. But we had a family band growing up, and he makes fun of it because it's the Poe family. But my mom played keyboard, and my stepdad played guitar, and we had a little drum machine that had all our songs programmed. And about the time I was 11 years old, I picked up the bass guitar. That was kind of the only thing missing in the band. So, plus it had the least amount of strings, and I'm like, I think maybe I can master this.
And talk about your trip to Nashville.
I came right out of high school. I was studying something completely different. I was in the pro pilot sort of category, and that was my degree, or what I thought I wanted to do, and I just kept getting sidetracked by music, kept getting asked to play gigs and do demos, and so I just felt like God was kind of leading me in a different direction. And ironically, I broke my leg too in college at a Jimmy Buffett concert. And so I ended up changing my major over to administration part instead of pro pilot, and I pursued music full-time, really. But I did get my degree, and I did get backstage to meet Jimmy Buffett too.
So Jimmy Buffett kind of helped you get to where you are now?
Kinda, yeah.
Now, do you have your license to fly?
I do. Just my private, though.
Okay. So, Michelle, talk about your influences.
Linda Ronstadt, Dolly Parton, Emmylou Harris, Patti Loveless, Steve Wariner. Of course, I want to marry him, but he's already married. Those kind of people. But I also like all kinds of music, too, like Keith was saying. I mean, I'm a huge Mariah Carey fan. I love her voice. And I loved all the 70s bands, so kind of a wide range. I guess I'm old enough to like that stuff.
Karen, talk about your journey to Nashville.
Well, ironically, and I'm not joking,
oh, no.
I actually did hurt my back my senior year.
Should I leave? I'm scared now I'm going to break something.
I know. And I couldn't play sports, so my music teacher at the time gave me a guitar, showed me 3 chords to Annie's song, the John Denver song, and that was it, man. I just never put it down, and she set me on a different course, which I always tell people, if I would have gone into professional football like I thought, my knee'd be bad, you know, 8, 9 years maybe career, but this is a long-term career I could get into.
Football.
You never know. You never know.
So then I went to college for social work and ended up getting into a contemporary Christian band. And then I got signed to a record deal in a Christian company that was out in LA, and I was just getting ready to move my stuff out there, and the label folded. So I came back home not knowing what to do, and my parents told me about this talent contest in Wheeling, West Virginia, which is real close to where I lived. And I accidentally won the whole thing. And part of the prize was you got to open for all these acts. So I got to open for the Judds and Reba McEntire and all these people. And one night, one of the people in Reba's band came out and said, "You're pretty good, you ought to move to Nashville." And I went, "Okay."
So any influences then along the way?
Oh, everything. I mean, all the people Michelle said, and you know, so much. The good thing about the 70s when I was a teenager and stuff, there's such a mixture of genres on the radio. I was into Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, the Eagles, and then you could also be into Patsy Cline or whatever. Just everything was on there. But Linda Ronstadt's probably one of my biggest influences for sure. And then I was into a lot of black artists like Aretha, and Mahalia Jackson is my gospel idol, and just total cornucopia of things that I like, you know. So
now you have written music for several huge names and even smaller names. What has been something that you've written that maybe means most to you?
I actually have several songs. This one song called "With You" has been cut like 5 or 6 times, and it still hasn't found its home yet, and that's one that I really like. And then another one called "Somebody's Child" that I had on my Warner Brothers album has a lot of meaning to me. And it's funny because, you know, they're like your children. It's hard to pick out which one you like the best, you know, because they all have some meaning for you.
Well, I was going to ask, now when you're writing these, I mean, are these things that, you know, you can just come up with and make up a story, or are these related to something that
kind of both?
You've lived?
Yeah. A lot of times you can just, you know, rip from the headlines, as they say on Law and Order, you know, and get the idea. And then other times you just completely fabricate the whole thing. But the funny thing is, sometimes you get so enraptured in these fictitious characters that you get, you know, real emotional about them, and you're like going, "They wouldn't say that." Yeah, it's not even a real person. How would you know they wouldn't say that?
So now, Keith and Michelle, talk a little bit about, and either one of you can speak, how did you all become Burns and Poe?
Well, when Heidi Newfield left, and she was the lead singer of Trick Pony, they held auditions for new lead singers, and my name got thrown into the mix, so I went down and auditioned, and I actually got the gig, and I had it for like 24 hours because the bass player, the third member, decided he wanted to pursue a solo thing too. So it was sort of a blessing in disguise, because we wouldn't have what we have now, you know, had he stayed. And I always say in my heart of hearts, I really didn't want to sing Trick Pony songs for the rest of my life. I would have rather, you know, have this combination where we're writing our own songs and, you know, being front and center of our own project. But that's kind of how we met. Our paths had never crossed. I mean, we came to town about the same time, and we had never met.